They may be heroes on the field, but some of their greatest moments happened off it. From pulling strangers out of danger to saving teammates in life or death situations, these stories prove their courage goes far beyond football. Get ready for the most unbelievable real-life rescues you've ever heard. At number 10, Joe Delaney showed the world what real courage looks like. It was 1983, and the Kansas City Chiefs star was only 24 years old when his life ended in the most heartbreaking way imaginable. Delaney was at a public park when he saw 3 kids struggling in a pond. He couldn't swim well, and he even admitted it to a bystander. But instead of backing away, instead of thinking about himself, he dove straight in. He said, "If I don't come up, get somebody," and went after those kids. One managed to fight his way back to land, but 2 11-year-olds drowned, and so did Delaney, the man who tried to save them. He left behind a wife and 3 young daughters, the youngest only 4 months old.
Former Chiefs running back Joe Delaney gave his life while trying to save 3 little children who were drowning in a pond in Louisiana.
Delaney's sacrifice was so powerful that Ronald Reagan gave him a Presidential Citizens Award. This wasn't just a football player. This was a man who died proving his character, and his story still leaves people speechless to this day. But at number 9, the life-saving moment didn't happen on a football field or in a pool. It happened at dinner. In 2011, Oregon offensive lineman Mark Asper, who later joined the NFL, was at the Beef Bowl, a giant prime rib dinner tradition before the Rose Bowl. While players were eating, laughing, and hyping themselves up for the game, Asper noticed a man choking at the next table. Most people would panic, but Asper, a former Eagle Scout, stayed calm and jumped into action. He performed the Heimlich maneuver right there in the middle of the fancy dinner, saving the man's life. The victim later joked that Asper broke his sunglasses during the rescue, but everyone else knew the truth. This guy prevented a tragedy. It wasn't a touchdown, it wasn't a big block. It was real heroism when nobody expected it. 1 second, it was dinner. The next, Asper was the reason someone walked away alive. At number 8, the spotlight falls on Christian McCaffrey. In Colorado, at a place called Castle Rock, McCaffrey wasn't on the field, he was just out hiking. But destiny had other plans. A man named Dan was hiking with his grandson when suddenly, disaster struck. Dan slipped and fell down the trail, crashing hard right in front of McCaffrey. It wasn't a small fall. The man broke 12 bones, including his neck, ribs, pelvis, and femur. Worst of all, doctors later found out he had a brain bleed that could have killed him at any moment. McCaffrey didn't freeze. He rushed to Dan's side, kept him awake, and stayed until paramedics arrived. And when Dan finally recovered after surgeries and weeks in the hospital, McCaffrey went above and beyond. He didn't just send tickets and jerseys. He personally visited the family, making sure they knew how much he cared. In a world where some players only think about fame, McCaffrey literally stood between life and death for a complete stranger. And the crazy part? The rescues only get more shocking from here. At number 7, Blaine Gabbert turned what could have been a nightmare into a miracle. The quarterback and his brothers were out riding jet skis in Tampa Bay when suddenly they noticed something insane. A helicopter literally crashing into the water. No time to think, no time to wait for first responders. Gabbert and his crew sped over on their jet skis and found an entire family trapped inside. One kid was pinned down. The pilot was still in the water, and wires and seatbelts were everywhere. In seconds, the whole thing could have gone under. But Gabbert and his brothers started pulling people out one by one, dragging them to safety on their jet skis, seconds before the helicopter sank. When police arrived, they were so impressed that they made Gabbert an honorary member of the Marine Patrol. But the truth is simple. Without him, that family wouldn't be alive today. At number 6, Tyreek Hill saved a fan's life in one of the most unexpected ways possible, through a group chat. After a game, Hill met a group of die-hard Chiefs fans and became close with them, even joining their group chat. Every week, they messaged him, celebrating his big plays. But one day, after one of Hill's best performances ever, the chat was buzzing with messages from everyone, except one guy, Lewis Brewer. Hill noticed something was off. He told the others to check on him, and when they did, they found Brewer lying unresponsive on his bathroom floor. He had suffered a stroke and had been there clinging to life. Doctors rushed to save him, and thankfully, they managed to get him breathing again. And it all happened because Tyreek Hill paid attention. Without him noticing the silence of one fan, Louis wouldn't be here today. Hill may be known for blazing speed on the field, but off the field, he proved that sometimes saving a life is about awareness, not athleticism. At number 5, Mark Andrews turned his own struggle into someone else's survival. Diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at just 9 years old, Andrews grew up learning how to manage a deadly disease. That personal battle ended up being the reason a stranger survived at 40,000 feet in the air. Andrews was on a flight when a woman suddenly had a medical emergency. Her pulse was weak, her heart rate was dangerously low, and even the doctors on board couldn't figure out what was happening. Andrews recognized the signs immediately. It looked exactly like a diabetic episode. He pulled out his test kit, checked her blood sugar, and confirmed she was in serious danger. With his quick thinking, they got her sugar into her system just in time, stabilizing her until the plane landed. The doctors helped, sure, but everyone on that flight knew the truth. Mark Andrews, the guy sitting in the seat next to her, was the one who saved her life. And if you think that's intense, wait until you hear what happened when an NFL player went head-to-head with a moving train. At number 4, Bair faced a situation that looked like a scene out of a disaster movie. He was driving to work when out of nowhere he saw a train slam into a truck stuck on the tracks. The impact was brutal. The train dragged the truck hundreds of feet, flames bursting all around it. Most people would have stayed far away, but not Bair. He pulled over, sprinted toward the chaos, and found the driver trapped inside, screaming for help. With the fire closing in, Bair pulled the man through the window just seconds before the truck exploded. The victim was airlifted to the hospital with serious injuries, but he survived, only because Bair ignored every instinct to run away and chose to run toward hell itself to save another man's life. At number 3, Khalil Shakir showed that sometimes saving lives doesn't just mean saving people. The Buffalo Bills wide receiver heard about 19 dogs in a local shelter who were about to be put down because there wasn't enough space to keep them. For Shakir, that wasn't an option. He stepped in, rescued every single dog, and then held an adoption event so they could all find safe homes. To fans, he saved animals, but to the families who took those pets home, he gave them something priceless: new family members. Those dogs were hours away from death, but Shakir made sure every one of them lived. It wasn't in a stadium, it wasn't in front of cameras, it was pure compassion, and it proves heroism doesn't always come with a scoreboard. At number 2, Tershawn Wharton's moment of heroism came in the middle of pure chaos. After a Chiefs game, fans were crowding to get close to players. In that frenzy, a young kid suddenly fell headfirst over a railing. People gasped. It looked like the child could have broken his neck or worse. But in that split second, Wharton reacted. He reached out, grabbed the kid, and lifted him back up into the stands before disaster struck. It wasn't planned. It wasn't rehearsed. It was raw instinct. 1 second too late, and the outcome could have been tragic. But thanks to Wharton's reflexes, that child walked away safe, with an NFL player as his unexpected guardian angel. At number 1, Peyton Hillis risked everything for his own family. In January 2023, Hillis was at the beach in Florida when a deadly rip current suddenly swept his son and niece out into the ocean. Without hesitation, he sprinted into the waves, but the situation was terrifying. At one point, he had to swim past his own son because his niece was in even greater danger. He pulled her out, then fought to save his son as his little boy's eyes rolled back from exhaustion. Somehow, Hillis got them both to shore, but the effort cost him everything. He collapsed, stopped breathing, and was rushed to the hospital where his lungs and kidneys were failing. He was put on a ventilator, completely unconscious for 10 days. Against all odds, he survived. Hillis nearly died to keep his family alive, and if that doesn't prove what real heroism looks like, nothing does. From risking death in raging water, to saving strangers mid-flight, to pulling kids and families from the edge of disaster, these 10 NFL players prove that being a hero isn't about touchdowns or trophies. It's about what you do when someone else's life is on the line.